Welcome back to my channel. Today I will be a little bit more vulnerable and talk about something that I've been experiencing for the last few years, and that is anxiety. So let's get into it. I've always had anxiety and did not know it. When I first discovered that I had anxiety was right around the time that my dad passed. That is pretty much when all of my spiraling events happened after that, and I started to realize what was going on later on, but this all starts and stems back to my childhood. I've apparently always had anxiety since I was a child, and we'll talk about that. But when I first discovered that I had anxiety was around the time my dad passed and I started to spiral. I always had to be in control. I replayed conversations, I tried to be in control of my future and predict outcomes and control how things and situations will turn out. Whenever I laid in bed at night, I would replay conversations and think about my past and my childhood and things that have happened to me. So my sleep was all messed up and I was all over the place. Those are just some of the symptoms that really stand out, and I'm sure a lot of people experience. So I wanted to bring those to the forefront when talking about that. When my dad passed back in 2019, I started having anxiety attacks and panic attacks. At the time, I had no idea what was going on. I never experienced anything like this. My chest would be tight. I'd have a hard time breathing. I couldn't really sleep at night. And a lot of my attacks happened while I was in rest mode at night and laying down. I had night sweats. I would just wake up throughout the night. I was just always in the sense of being like in fear mode, like something bad was about to happen. It was the worst experience. I experienced that for like maybe half a year. My dad passed in November of 2019, and I was going through this all the way through, I want to say, early 2020, maybe February or March, so a good few months before I sought help from my doctor and talked to her about it. And she diagnosed me with what she called anxiety caused by grief. So I went on medication for about 3 years before weaning myself off when I thought I didn't need it. And I was off of medication, or have been off of medication since. I thought about going back, but found alternatives instead. I just did not want to be on the medications anymore. I thought I was doing great for those 2 years that I was off until I started to spiral again. Looking back in hindsight, I was in survival mode and did not realize that I was suppressing a lot of my feelings. It's crazy to think that once my wedding day came and passed, that I started to exit survival mode and feel safe. Um, I was in a new chapter of my life. I have a new husband, or I have a husband, like as if I've had a husband before, but I have my husband. We moved into a new place. We had an amazing honeymoon. Things were starting to really just change for me. That's when the spiraling started, and I realized that I was not ever okay. I was coping for the last few years and was still in survival mode, and a lot of my feelings were being suppressed. Um, why I contribute this, or why me and my therapist have um, identified the wedding as being the center point of when all of this started in terms of me exiting survival mode, is just knowing that for for the last few years, 2023 to 2025, there was a lot going on. So when I finally became safe and had a feeling of being safe and being able to get out of survival mode, my body was working against me. At least that's what I thought. I misinterpreted a lot of what was going on this last year as my body working against me. But turns out I was living in survival mode. And if you know anything about survival mode, what happens is you are just focused on the now. Your body is just trying to make it through the next day, the next week, the next hour, the next month, the next year. And that's exactly what I was doing. Just worried about work, worried about um, just the next day, the next week, the next hour, and just trying to make it through. I was suppressing my feelings. I was not listening to my body. And I thought that I was malfunctioning, to be honest. This is the best way I can explain it. And if you know, you know. My body literally felt like it was shutting down. So, where does this all stem from? Um, Speaking to my therapist, a lot of my sense of control and being anxious comes from my childhood and things that have happened to me, things that I will not talk about here. But as a result of these childhood traumas and things that I went through, I needed to be in control. I needed to have a sense of control over myself and my life because of things that have happened where I did not have control or that control was taken from me. And so I developed this sense of anxiety, of being anxious and wanting control over everything. And it bleeded into who I am and what makes me me. And that's a part of me that I had to learn to explore and really learn about that portion of myself in order to help myself. I was a people pleaser and I had to learn to stop that. From 2023 to 2025, there were a lot of things happening or lack of actions happening um, within my life. And when I say that, I mean from members of quote unquote family um, that just made things worse or really triggered a lot of my spiraling. I found myself trying to control relationships, trying to control dynamics and control the outcome of things that I could not, alongside planning my wedding. So there was a lot of sense of I'm trying to make the perfect day for me and my husband, but also trying to work out things on the back end that are happening with our extended family, blaming myself for the things that people wanted to believe and not just letting things happen. A lot of this sense of I could not control the narrative, I could not control what people thought, I could not control anything, was driving me insane. It was driving me insane, and I literally spiraled, which is why I say that the wedding was the final, I am out of survival mode, and the point where my body started to fall apart and shut down. The wedding was the last point of my life that I felt forced to be around people that I did not want to be around, or I felt like I had to try to bridge relationships that just were not working out. And I had to see people I did not want to see. Um, and because it was such a, now looking back, my own wedding was a unsafe environment. And I feel like that's something that no one should say or have to say, but I'm saying it. And I've realized through therapy that what I thought would be a safe environment was not safe for me mentally. And it was the last day of me feeling unsafe. So, what happened when I started to feel safe? The wedding happened the end of August 2024. Um, like I said, that was the last day that I felt unsafe or I felt that I put myself in environments or situations that I did not want to be in. And I started to heal. I started to heal. I started to feel a sense of peace, and things were great for the first month or two. And because I created a safe environment for myself, and I was happy and starting to heal and really have peace in my life, my body started to shut down because I was now exiting survival mode. And what that looked like is me constantly being sick, me being in and out of the hospital, medical bills running up. I was not eating. I could not eat anything outside of rice and soup. I was not eating anything really of substance. Sometimes I was not eating at all. I would just eat rice. I lost 30 pounds. I was literally shutting down. I was at such a low that There were times I really thought I was dying because I wasn't eating. And this was happening. I'm not talking about a week or two. This went on for months. No one could figure out what was wrong. I was healthy, and all the blood work, all the exams, the x-rays, the everything normal. No one could figure it out. Went to a million specialists, had a gastroenterologist, a hematologist, um, just many different types of people, and nothing was wrong. So I wasn't eating. And when I would eat, I would get extremely sick for days on end. There were days I had to call out from work. There were days that my social life just ended. I wasn't able to go out with friends. I wasn't able to hang out with coworkers. I couldn't even hang out with my husband. We stopped going on dates because I couldn't eat. I wasn't able to eat out. I wasn't able to be outside the house for long periods of time without getting sick and having to come home. It felt like I was trapped and attached to my house and my bathroom, because it was just like I had to be at home in order to be close to the toilet if I needed to vomit, if anything. It was just a really low space, and it felt like I was forced to be isolated from everyone but my husband, and my mom, because I could not do anything. I could not be outside the house, and it was just such a low state. So, what did I do about this? I had a moment where I realized that this had to be anxiety, or it had to be something. The more I looked and looked, because I had plenty of time, a lot of sleepless nights. I had a hard time sleeping most nights. Um, I really had time to just look into things and really learn about the nervous system and learn about what could possibly be happening to me. A lot of trial and error, and really started to realize that there was more happening, and this just was not by coincidence. So I got a behavioral therapist. I have been in therapy since because I did not want to go back on meds. I, through therapy, realized that I needed to make a change in my lifestyle, when it comes to the people pleasing and the sense of control, and really trying to discover where that stems from. I cut ties with a lot of people in 2025. It has been such a long journey, but for the first time in a very long time, I lean into my feelings. I can actually lay in bed at night and go to sleep immediately without having thoughts of replaying conversations, or trying to predict outcomes, or think about the future and what will happen, and just having that sense of control is no longer there. Like, I am in a place where I cannot control what I can't control, and I can only control what I can. And I am so obsessed with this life. So that's just a little glimpse into what I've been going through these last few years, these last few months. And I wanted to share, and this was a hard video to do because I am a very private person. I wanted to share because I feel that, like me, there's someone out there that is experiencing all these symptoms and has no idea what is happening, and their body's shutting down, or they're spiraling and just do not know that it could be anxiety. It could be as simple as you're not putting yourself first and you're not saying no. I really hope that this video helps someone, and maybe leave a comment if it helped you. Share your experience if you are inclined to do so. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video.